the private market to start responding and using that bit of $300,000 equity they just got over the last 3 years to put. I've immediately got funding from my bank to build a house in my backyard. Insane. But that is how normal people, you've probably all got mortgages, could actually start addressing some of this housing crisis. Build in your backyard. Encourage developers who come knocking on my door at Porirua, go to Kapiti. Why is there no land? Why are we not seeing medium density townhouses? I lived in them in Ireland and London for many years, and they're great. Why aren't we seeing them? I was responsible for the Arawata Road, the development you'll see being filled up at the moment, bit of earthworks. I was involved in the consenting through Landlink. That at the time focused infill, 300 square metre lots. That's quite strange at the time. That's what we need to start thinking about as being normal when you can walk to the train. And Kapiti, when I was working at council, it was $450 minimum, a big house. We have to change the way we think about housing, especially around our town centres where we have infrastructure that we've worked so hard to pay for. Let's start building some houses and let's help some developers and let's help mums and dads build something in their backyard, because otherwise my sons are going to have to live with me forever, and after they've been to Otago. So anyway, I apologise for the frantic manicness of this. I wanted to come and talk to say I've had my piece, said my piece, and set an example for my children that the money that mum earns, so goes to work for, is put in the hands of people who make decisions that pay for skate parks and, I'm sure Zach has something to say and he'll want to ask you. Thank you.
Just stop there. Stop there. Questions?
Sorry.
Councillor McCann.
Oh, Jesus.
It's okay.
Kia ora through you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I want to thank you for making me look really sedate and unpassionate about housing, because I know councillors need to hear what you're saying, and I know that everyone around this room does understand the absolute urgency, but I think you helped sum it up. And can we have coffee to discuss how you can help continue to influence the direction of travel that I think we are on, but only beginning?
Cool.
By the way, I'm married, so I'm in coffee, business coffee. That just sounded right.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there a response? No? Just a statement, not a question. Okay.
Councillor Compton.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, I noticed in your written submission here, you talk about much more medium and high density housing within 3 kilometres of the train stations and local centres. So you mentioned the MPS on urban development, and that's got the minimum 400. So you're basically challenging us to go faster and harder and further than the MPS with its minimums. You say we should do more urgently, go further.
Okay, as far as I am aware, the MPSUD talks about up to 6 stories within, so that's quite a lot. So when you start to think about that in terms of what that built form would look like, I think, your resource consents planners would probably have a heart attack, but I think that that's fantastic. In terms of what I'm talking about, medium density is not what you think it would be in terms of scary. You've already got that allowance. Infill, focused infill, is a 300 square metre minimum. That is a townhouse attached with a party wall. You just don't have the land availability in terms of multiple units to make it viable. So the lot down on Arawata Road, that man purchased it when it went on the market. It was like 3,000 square metres. So he was able to go, and I remember doing the subdivision appraisal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right, let's go, yay, focused infill. So, of course, yes, wouldn't that be great to encourage higher densities within 800? But I think you've already got the provisions in your district plan in terms of the focused infill zone around Paraparumu. And I think hopefully, I know that there was a resource consent lodged at Kapiti Lights where I think again, it was a Boffamisco, Andrew Gurin, a very good friend of mine, old planner, used to work here, lodged it on behalf of Boffamisco. I think that is townhouses. So I was like, what are you doing, Gurin? Like, hell, dude. Give us some density. Allow for some housing for some of these 21-year-olds who probably have to have something starting with a 4, not an 8, which are the townhouses that I'm approving down in Porirua, in the arse, pardon my language, end of nowhere in Whitby. and these aren't affordable houses, these are. So I think we need to realign our perspectives and expectations around what affordable housing looks like and take a serious wake-up call. And I really hope that, like Jason Holland and all of these guys, will start to embrace what medium high density looks like and feels like, because whether you like it or not, Wellingtonians are here. We aren't sleepy Kapiti that I left in 2004. We're raging metro, centre, city people coming in and buying all the property, and the expectation around what housing looks like has to adjust. I mean, welcome, bring your ratepayer money. But, I think we really have to help developers through changes in our district plan. One thing I didn't mention is Upper Hutt and the Hutt councils have got it together, man. They essentially, again, I've been working in resource consent, so I'm in the sausage factory at the moment, but their policies around reduction of development contributions to see an increase, go and have a talk to that planning manager, Emily Thompson, who's used to work here. Those incentives to encourage development are working. Look at Williams Corporation, the people who are building developments. We need to beg those people to come here. I had a pre-app meeting with them at Porirua a couple of weeks ago, and I said, any interest, lads, up the coast? And they're like, there's just nothing going on. It's just too damn hard. It's just too hard. And I'm like, why? So I really think a change. Sorry, Guru.
It's really great, but I've got a couple more.
Apologies.
One more person, one last question, and then the next submitter.
Apologies.
Before I start, I have had coffee with Councillor McCann. It's not that exciting. So, in regards to your submission, you answered yes in terms of a role in housing, but then referred to not providing social housing.
Yeah.
You then again tonight articulated that verbally.
Yeah.
Is that what you took from our consultation document when we're asking that question, that you saw council particularly taking the role of Kāinga Ora and actually providing houses for those in need?
Sorry, did I answer yes?
You asked yes that we should play a role, but then both
Okay.
written and then verbally tonight you've referred to us not being a housing provider.
Sure. So in answering your question, like I mentioned, I filled in a survey in bed 10 o'clock one night, and I think they were quite leading questions. And I think further up, was there some request around social housing? So I don't know, maybe I apologise. So in terms of provision, council acting as a social housing provider, I would probably say no on the 51%, because I think that in terms of our areas of expertise, and I'm not in any way versed in financial matters and what terms of what makes councils tick, but I think that we should be investing or focusing our energies on infrastructure, reserves, water, through waters, land use development, that kind of thing, where I think if you did choose to expand your portfolio into South, yeah, exactly. However, the question was, do you think council should have a role in facilitating housing? Absolutely. You have to. You absolutely have to. Social housing, granny flats, nah. Leave that to Kāinga Ora if I don't know the interrelationships between Kapiti and Kāinga Ora. Cool, bring them down if there's that need. So apologies if that was not clear.
Thank you very much for the robust
Oh, goodness.
submission.
All right.
You've done really well, and I'm sure councillors will be contacting you for further discussions. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Good job. Come on, boys.
Come on, girls. The next is Andrew Hollis, also a housing guy.
I'm not going to be able to quite match the passion shown by the previous lady, but I am passionate about housing. I'm a construction professional. I spent my entire life building things for people to live in and to use. So I'm not sure I agree about social housing not in the council realm. I know that Kapiti has already got some social housing. We've got a problem in terms of the country is greying very quickly. There's going to be 1.3 million people in 2036 who are over 65, and that's a 70%, 77% increase over 2016. So it's happening very, very fast. So if we're going to take on this problem, Kangaroo is great. There's lots of things that they're doing well, but there's also the smaller social housing providers, the community housing providers. There needs to be somewhere in the middle. One of the problems that the last national government caused, and I hope I don't offend any councillor who sort of leans in that direction, but selling off our social housing has meant that many private landlords have ended up taking up the slack, and they're not really set up for that kind of thing. They don't have the interest in it. So it means more people are ending up in emergency housing and other things that are not very good for the people that are unfortunately in those positions. I get it, funding an expansion of the social housing provision that you've got is a problem because obviously you need a budget. But I've got a funding model that I've used with councils in the UK that can provide the ability to invest in social housing, where the estimated cost to council is 0.5% of the capex. And I've done this before. I've delivered construction projects for local authorities, as I said, in the UK with this model. It's not new, and it's been very successful at delivering top-class assets at an affordable price. So using this model, Capita could expand its social housing provision quite quickly. And because of my experience overseas, I've seen lots of different ways to build things. There's many more ways than banging bits of wood together and standing up concrete panels. So there's a lot of fast construction technology from overseas that we could use that would make it very quick to build these things. It also could easily become a local business for young entrepreneurs, young Maori, to take on, to do that in concert with council or community groups or the government. I'm not sure how that would work, but it's definitely a new business for new people to take on. The economic energy created will build on our well-being and develop economic vigour that will help all of our people. And the housing market here definitely needs a new competitor. My interest in all of this is an expansion in social housing. I'm interested in a program of developing a large-scale asset for a council. I happen to live here, and I love living in the Kapiti Coast, and so I'm bringing this to you. So the funding approach can do that in a cost-effective way, but I'm also happy to support and encourage the building of a house builder to build the social housing in a program as a catalyst from the work that you want to do. I know you're trying to decide whether to stay in social housing and expand. I'm offering you a way to expand at a very minimal price that will build possibly a national business for young people to take part in. It's important that we get proper apprenticeships because we'd be using a system from somewhere else. Nobody else is going to be doing it, so we can train people to do that and take it out and build things for Kapiti Coast District Council, build things for other people. It's a win-win across many aspects of the work that council does. In summary, I've got a cost-effective model for council to obtain assets and reduce the burden on ratepayers and council budgets. I'm sure ratepayers would love not to have to pay for social housing. It gives us high-quality Homestar rated innovative homes built at in a fraction of the time it takes today. 20 years ago, I saw a house built in the UK in a day. It's not new. It's not innovative. It's been done all over the world, but not here. It does give us a business opportunity for a new way of building for young and Maori entrepreneurs. Might even become a national entity. And we do get the apprenticeships that we can build through teaching people the new techniques. So what I thought about as an end was build social housing to meet the need, because there really is a need. We're expanding our greying population that's going to need that support, and build a house builder to build that need.
Quick questions. Councillor McCann.
It's good to see you again, and I can assure James that the cup of coffee I had wasn't that eventful either.
I don't know. It brought me to come to this meeting.
I'm underselling myself.
I believe so.
What the model that you're talking about?
Yes.
Are you like? Can you expand on what that model actually is?
It's difficult to, without giving away a commercial secret, because obviously it's my IP. So
we're not on live streaming at the moment, so feel free. We can continue those discussions then.
yes.
Thank you very much for your submission.
Anyone else got any questions?
Well, that's what I asked, and nobody else.
No? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for giving me a...
You'll definitely hear from Mr. McCann.
Thank you. I'll speak to you soon. Have a good evening.
Next, Mike Alexander, tēnā koe.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Hey, I want to thank the Mayor and the councillors and the staff for taking all this time to listen to everyone. And I've just found out outside that everyone's turning up. I've never known that before. So, I realise you guys got to go for a long time here on this. So, yeah, I appreciate that. Okay, thank you. On climate change, there's some big ticket items. I'm just going to hit you on. That's all. I've sort of handed over the climate change to Councillor Sophie Hanford, hopefully, and she sent me an interesting article. And one of the things was there on concrete, sorry, but it's putting a lot of different items in concrete. But I wouldn't want to use that until it's been tested for 20 years. Okay. Okay. So to do with the beach at Pycock, it's quite interesting that I've just went and took some photos. You can take them and give them to staff. First of all, the beach level at Pycock has dropped about 1.9 metres, and that can be easily classified by looking at the pier down there at Pycock, which I used to ride over on my bike. Yeah, that's that one. Hand that one. You take all those ones and just hand them in order.
Okay.
And there's that one there. So there's those ones to the other side. It's quite important. Okay. So that's half of that's fallen into the sea. It's a real large structure because it's been undermined. The beach level's dropped and it's fallen in. The rest of it, which is a mammoth cost, you need to put this in the budget, in the plan. Be $1 million easy for that one. But we could save that. It could break off at any time, and if we don't keep that out full, it drains half of the southern part of Pycock from all stormwater. So it takes it out quite a way, so it doesn't gouge out the sand near the seawall. So that's one item. You can see the photos there. There's two ladies there I was talking to. Give me the size of the pier. They both got properties on the other side of the road, at the beachfront there. They were both happy to have just rocks put back. I was quite surprised. And their neighbours are the same. They didn't want a flash concrete seawall in. I was quite surprised. So, yeah, so that goes on. Now, then I went south down to Fisherman's Table. There's a bank down there eroding away severely behind the Putakawas. The Putakawas are falling in. Now, if we take over the highway from transit, I predict by measuring it in years 9 to 11, we'll be hit with a big cost of maintaining that wall to save the road. So if you've got that in there, it's about 3.4 million on the higher costing figure of concrete, or about 2.4 on the wood wall. And I'm pushing for just rocks down there on that one. Okay, so if you don't know about that one, you need to put it in the budget. Now the next thing is the current seawall, and I've got some photos there, a post, the bolts have gone. On most of the seawall, the bolts have rusted away because they were just mild steel or high tensile steel. So it's really just sitting there. So I think we could put in marine grade stainless screws in and secure that seawall. Do a patch up job on it. The timber hasn't rotted away. That would help and keep us going on that one. And there's a photo there of the timber falling down. As soon as the timber falls down, the sea goes in and takes out the dirt behind the seawall. So it's quite explicit along there. All the bolts are just rusted out. There's nothing holding it specifically on that one. Then the last part of the seawall going up towards the park, where the regional council are going to withdraw back from the coast, which is similar to the area north of the Fisherman's Table, where the government built a seawall and it failed. And then in the 1970s, they actually removed the 12 houses there. This is what the government did. And those houses are scattered around the district here now. So if you don't know about that one, that's what's happened. So just going on that again, we've got to cut. There's ways to cut the cost and the carbon emissions. I think they need explaining. I don't know if I'm right, but you guys have got to decide on it. And I wouldn't want to be this is a big item, but just take into account that beach level is dropping, and if the sea level rises, it'll drop more. I can tell you that now. Simple. And so that means that the beach level is dropping. The foundations for anything you put there can be undermined. It's costly. The next thing I was going to tell you about the growth and capital. Okay, we're a town now, but we're going to become a suburb of Wellington quickly now with the motorway, etc. And years ago, I sort of pushed the council to buy Mangahau Power Station in '98. That would have given us a big generating. That was cheap. Todd's bought it cheap. Would have given us a big income, and also to push for the subsidised housing that the UK had set up in the 50s and 60s in their towns, which now become suburbs. And that plan, what they used, worked well. And what that was high-rise buildings. So I was hoping years ago we would have built a lot of 3-storey flats out here, and the council owned them all. But never mind, it didn't happen. So what's that? That's it. I don't know what we can do now. And that actually saved, that building high-rise actually saves on carbon emissions over septic drillings. I'll leave it up to you guys. It's quite a difficult thing here at the moment. And thanks for listening to me.
Right, questions? Councillor Compton.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, in terms of what you're talking about, the State Highway south of Paikakariki, Are you aware that Waka Kotahi's current proposal is that they're going to retain ownership of it, just precisely because of what you were talking about, because of the cost risks, not just from the seawall issue, but actually from the escarpment running along there? They've sort of identified that it's going to be sort of expensive to maintain it, so they're going to keep it on the government's books rather than handing it across to us.
Yeah,
that's their proposal anyway. We're waiting. I think we're still waiting for a final decision on it. So.
Yeah, well, just think about that. That's the coastal bit along there as well, by the Fisherman's Table as well on that one. I see the boundaries down a bit further along there, so it's up to the council, what you decide. But you've got to be aware of what you're going into. I thought I'd mention it to you because it's quite important. There's a big cost factor on there, that one. Yeah, so that road is, by the way, that road was a bit of a track down there on old maps from 1881, and that road to Mackay's Crossing was called Wainui Track originally, and then became Wainui Road. And I've taken those old maps and drawings from the Manawatu Railway Company and shown local iwi, and they're happy with that name, Wainui Road. So you don't need to invent new names. They're all there. All these old names. If you search around, even my old school bag's got a whole lot of names in it. I learned Maoris when I used to play with the kids when I was young. Written inside.
Right, Councillor Buswell.
You just touched on the council buildings in the UK built in the 50s and 60s. Have you experienced living in those buildings?
No, but I watched a lot of films on it when I was at primary school.
I tell you for nothing, it's not a nice place to live.
No, I agree with that, but it was cost effective and it worked. It's as simple as that. And they even built the motorway. They built the motorways at the same time, and the motorway exit to the towns came straight off to the town centre, which is what we should have had.
Councillor Hanford.
Kia ora, Mike. I'd just like you to please expand on the fact that you think council should not explore ways to have a role in the airport. Why is that?
Oh, I don't know everything, so I don't know the answer to that one. As simple as that. I don't know. I only know in the long-term plan. There's only 3 years I know stuff about, and the rest of it I wouldn't have a clue. So I'm not commenting on anything. So thank you guys. Anyhow,
Right, Mike. Thank you very much for taking the time and coming up here and delivering your submission. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks you guys also.
Next, David Ogden, Older Persons Council.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of the Council and staff. Thanks for this opportunity to come here and talk to you. I just want to emphasise a few points in the submission that I made to you, but I just want to briefly mention one or two aspects of myself so it gives you some credence or otherwise about the things I've got to say. I've had parallel lives in accountancy and local government. I've served as a financial controller and corporate treasurer. I've done a lot of running, but now I've been delegated or promoted to riding a bike. I don't ride an electric bike, so not really bikes in my view, but never mind. I know some of you may do that. And during the time, I was the mayor for 6 years of Lower Hutt, and we had a very simple thing. The rate rise was the rate of inflation plus percentage, whatever that is, and we tried to lower the debt, although now might be a good time to increase it with the lower interest rates. I just want to bring to you my views about the senior lives in this particular district. When I came up here, and I've had properties since, well, a long time ago in Otaki, I built one. I've had properties in Waikanae and Paraparaumu. So I've become involved, I'm still involved in the accountancy profession, but also I'm involved in local authority work, sort of through Grey Power, and I became involved in the Older Persons Council and somehow became the chair. I've resigned recently from the Kapiti Health Action Group. But there's a lot of ideas that have been milling around, and also previous mayor put up some ideas, but I came across this publication here, Better Later Life, He Ranga Kamatua, and it's got some really good ideas, and they're focused on in the submission I made to you, and I've made them more concise, that talk about the older person's finances, health, housing, social connection, and accessibility. And what I will do with the grace of the council and officers, I'll try and get one of these copies to each of you. I've got one of the members of staff did a link to the Ministry of Social Development, and you can download a copy of this, and I'll distribute those later, perhaps if I get an opportunity. There are one or 2 points I want to emphasise to you, that I think there's an opportunity here for us to have a model of best practice in the country for the senior citizens, because we have a preponderance, the demographic situation here is that, apart from Coromandel, I think we have the... Do I have to stop? Hurry up. So we have the opportunity here. Thank you, Councillor. You're not quite Councillor at the moment, but perhaps you will be. So we have a chance here to have a good best practice model. And also I emphasise, amongst other things you read in the submission, if you get round to it, so I feel the partnership with Maori should be really worked upon and increased and made a real point of success. Thank you very much for listening.
Questions? Councillor Holliday.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair, and it's been great getting to know you, David, on the Older Persons Council. I just wanted to have I had a question just in relation to the Older Persons Council, now that you've been in there a few months. Do you think it's fit for purpose with regards to looking to be Kapiti as a best practice model for seniors in that space, or do you think there needs to be some changes in that space?
Well, having been a local body politician for many years, I could get, a bit barbed in my words, but it is what it is. It's a meeting of people, individuals, and there are one or two the representatives of the organisation, and they enjoy it. People involved enjoy it. I find that the staff who service it are very, very busy. They're excellent staff, and I think there's a lot that could be done, and I appreciate your energy. You're always very good, and you're always very articulate and easy to be understood and heard, sir, and I thank you for that. I think, though, that there is an opportunity for things to be done and to become the voice of the older people. There are a number of other organisations, and I think they could work in liaison, and it can be improved. Yeah, you and I have talked about it, sir. It can be improved.
Councillor Hanford.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
I just have a question, David, around the connection that the Older Persons Council's had with the Youth Council and how that relationship is, and also whether the Youth Action Plan that the Kapiti Coast Youth Councillors spoke about, whether that's been kind of looked at even by members of your group to kind of, see where those similarities might be in terms of ensuring outcomes for both our younger population and our older population.
Well, historically, I don't know what the situation is. I've been here as chair for not long, and so it can always be improved. And we have had some very good speakers, and I suggest we have you and members of the Youth Council. I understand there were people from the Youth Council speaking earlier this evening, and the young people bring energy, and a lot of them bring a lot of talent, and they just, as long as there's a churn in them, people turning over, it's good for their development and that. But we can talk about that, and you can come and talk to us. We've had some very good discussions lately from members of the staff as speakers. But, we'll pencil it in, won't we, Councillor Martin? Mm-hmm.
Right. David, thank you for coming and talking to us on your submission.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Now we have Keda Stewart.
Tēnā koutou. Good evening. Thank you for having me along tonight, and I appreciate it's the end of a very long day for you. You had 800 odd submissions to go through, so I really admire your resilience, and it's really about resilience we're here for tonight, and growing towards resilience. And Keda is and aims to be very much a centre or part of that picture. I'm Stuart, as chair of the Kapiti Economic Development Association. I've been chair since late last year, and since we've been very, very busy gearing ourselves up to go to enact and align with the district's strategic plan behind the EDKB. Keda's purpose is to contribute to Kapiti's economic development and well-being by helping innovators, entrepreneurs, growth and existing businesses realise their ideas or project by harnessing volunteer business people, mentors and advisors with various programs, extensive networks, and the Keda Business Hub at Kapiti Airport. Key to what it's about is it's a startup to commercialization program. It's had its beginnings as what we call Kickstart, and we're currently evolving that program right now. That will be key to it. If you can imagine an environment where it really supports the lead role that we have, Keda has, in the strategic plan, and that is to develop a business investment and support matching program to support the growth and establishment of businesses in the district. So we indeed, apart from being lead, are also partner with Council and the Independent Economic Development Kotahi Board and other agencies to help with the deliverables towards building a thriving Kapiti. So I really would like to cut to the chase as to what we want specifically for Keta, but in terms of the submission to the plan at large, I can in summary say that we recommend, and it's all to do with a business hat on here and supporting business development in the coast, we support increasing rates to kickstart investment in the Kapiti district. We conditionally support the formation of a council-controlled organisation, and I say conditionally, to assist to create growth and mitigate future rate increases. So whilst on the one hand say a rate increase now, I'm not looking for rate increases, or we're not looking for rate increases ongoing, that the CCO is a means to do that, to mitigate that. We believe that the district or the council needs to target and actively funding and supporting key industry sectors. It's a small district, a small organisation, limited resources, be smart about it. We agree that council should take a bigger role in affordable housing. We strongly disagree with any involvement in operating an airport, but we recommend that economic development costs should be borne by the community at large and not just by the commercial sector or commercial property owners, as the entire community benefits from business activity and economic and commercial activity. We suggest that the funding that comes from the commercial rating or the targeted rating is managed by the EDKB, and that the EDKB, as part of that funding, has an economic development manager. It runs an economic development manager, as it were, independent of the council, reporting to it. Someone who is a professional, someone who has ideally been in business and knows about economic development. That, to me, our way of thinking, would cut to the chase pretty quickly. And we would like the council to review and likely increase the amount required to properly fund economic development, with less reliance on volunteers to deliver the plan or fund them. And I mentioned one way of doing that is by appointing a manager. We also would like to recommend that we indeed, as a voluntary organisation, are funded, seed funded by the council for the tune of $50,000, which would go some way to Keta optimising its objective to assist the council in delivering the plan. So just in terms of time, how much time do we have here? I was told 5 minutes initially, but I might have 20 minutes up my sleeve now. It's 50. Pardon? 3 minutes? Okay.
I did 3 minutes, but carry on.
Okay. Look, so managing growth, what does it look like? I think it's being smart, targeted with the limited resources that we have, be open for business. I got into this role, I think, with a clean sheet, not wanting to have any preconceived ideas, but all I hear is that we're not being open for business in the Kapiti district. I want to see the council to actively encourage and support business in the district. We have highly skilled and experienced people commuting to Wellington, wealthy, intelligent, highly skilled, socially and environmentally conscious, semi-retired and retired community here, all wanting to help out. Many with international, strong senior management, leadership or governance backgrounds. They want to and have the ability and wherewithal to continue to contribute to their community. We need to use them. I think we need to develop a commercial base. Sure, we've got construction here, and we have construction for an awful long time here, but something other than that. And we suggest the IT sector is an obvious one. And that is also, then reaches into the youth sector. Many of those folks in the IT sector are youth. The business hub that we have at the Kapiti Airport makes a lot of sense. It's not a case of build it and they will come, but we'd like to be able to think that the youth and the IT sector could use that facility. It's cheap to use, there's no barriers to use it, and it's ideal to get things started, at least in that area. So we need to be focused on what we do. The CCA, we believe, is a great vehicle to do that, but we need to be very guarded about how that's implemented. It's not worked every time it's been put in place around the country. And there's many good reports around that people need to research as we do that. But it makes an awful lot of sense. It gives you a lot of leverage, and it gives you the acumen that's required to do what you need to do and potentially to mitigate rate increases. The funding we're looking for is to optimise that kickstart or start to commercialisation program. And I can give you an example. Just the other night we had a kickstart event. We had 9 presenters, many with great ideas, to which we've attached 9 mentors from the network. These are skilled advisors, consultants, and very experienced and skilled business people who will mentor these people through to a program which may lead to, and it's free to the presenters, to the applicants, to a point where there'll be a few that come out of that are ready to pitch to advisors, investors, and such like that have an interest in taking that business on to commercialise that business. And optimally, to get to a point where we have local funds here, investors, contributing towards a seed fund or a Series A fund, funds that aren't readily available through central government. So if you can imagine that you and I all contribute $5,000 or $10,000 to this fund, and you're happy to allow a committee of people, experienced business people, to allocate those to businesses, startups that have been through the system where we've vetted them and are going to continue with involvement on an ongoing basis afterwards to help them commercialise. So that, we believe, is delivering on the plan. An example of how we've acted in the past is in the COVID. There's a section in there in the submission where we did, we think, deliver under that section. Last year, with the COVID, we had access to 50. We put together the business support network access to 50 advisors who are happy to give of their time freely to help businesses that would get into difficulty through the result of COVID. So that's actually an association doing it. We're not in the business of talk fests, strategising, drinkies. We're in the business of doing the business. So that's we believe we complement every other association or business interest group in Kapiti in that regard. So I'll leave it there. Any questions?
Questions? No? Councillor Coates?
Stuart, thanks very much for coming along tonight and speaking to your submission. I've got 2 questions coming out of it, and I was just trying to find the council page in our consultation document. But just going back to your submission there, I want to just clarify, you have the title there, is 650,000 enough? And then it goes on to talk about the 225,000 that is referred in our consultation document around us in terms of the rating mechanism apportioning to the commercial rate. The way that I've read your submission, and I just want to clarify this with you, you see that as an increase to the targeted fund, and then you question around where that money will go. Are you aware that that's our existing budget? We're just reapportioning who pays it? Because the way that I read your submission, it does appear that you might not realise that.
Maybe not, I stand corrected, but I understood there's something like 450,000 or 400,000 is available to that's targeted fund now, and it's to be increased by 225,000, is it?
Yes.
To 650,000?
That's not the case.
No. Okay.
I think previously it's been in previous years 2.7 million in our total ED budget, but a bulk of that was on town centre upgrades, and around 700 to 800, just for round figures, was spent on economic development.
Right.
650 charged to commercial. We're proposing to charge to commercial rates. So
right.
I just wanted to clarify the way that I read your submission gave me the impression you see that as an increase in funding, but it's actually just a reapportioning. Okay, I stand corrected.
All right, sorry about that.
The second one was the request further down, and understandably in terms of, and as Liz Coe has spoken around delivering, there's 2 aspects to it. The first is around providing at least, it says $2 million for a targeted fund for the EDKB board, and then separate to that there's the 50,000 for KEDA. So could I just clarify, you don't see that 50 as being part of the 2 million?
No.
It's separate to that.
So, I think the key to all of that was it needs. I just, from what I could make of the plan, I couldn't really see how the funds were made up or distributed really, and I just thought that it seemed not enough. If you really are getting serious about supporting economic development in business and kapiti, you really need to get down to investing in it. I mean, you get nothing out of business unless you invest in business.
Yeah. So business owner, I totally agree. You've got to spend money to make money. So could I just clarify, and I asked a similar question of Liz, using the $2 million as an example, it's operational expenses, so that would be directly rate funded. So asking that of council, if we were to support that, there would be a direct impact on ratepayers at around 2.94% increase on what we're proposing at the moment.
Right.
So would you...
Look, without being privy to all the numbers, I don't know whether that's enough or not.
Okay.
I guess the point is I would like to be privy to the numbers to make a really valuable contribution or statement on that.
Yeah, look, thank you. I guess I'm just trying to weigh up in terms of us getting a signal from Keda, yes, you'd like the money or where it goes to, but also understanding that you're happy with that cost being borne by someone has to pay it. And in this instance, I think it's 98 or 99% of our rates come from ratepayers. We don't have other forms of income. So,
right.
Okay, I appreciate the response.
Councillor Holliday.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for your presentation, Stuart. I just had a question around resourcing. You're asking for resources. You have a hub down at the airport. So where did your finances come from at the moment?
We have no funding at all, other than a very modest membership fee of $25. We don't have any. We don't want to make any barriers to business. The hub is really a vehicle to help businesses that typically in the startup area have no money, and they need to have some place to hang out and have access to the likes of ourselves, advisors and business people who are going to man the hub on a voluntary basis to triage their inquiries and to network them or get them in touch with the right sort of person. So that's manned by volunteers. We'll have volunteer hosts there every day. Typically, we would have a notice out saying Stuart's in residence on Wednesdays and we'll help you with financial health checks, for example, or so-and-so Laurie's there on Thursdays to do marketing checks or give you a bit of advice on marketing. And if we can't handle that, then we have someone on the network that we can point people to, or if we don't have the resources to. So, no, we'd have, other than the $25 membership fee, we charge a modest fee for the hot desks, $15 for half a day and $20 for a full day. The meeting room down is available at $75 for half a day and $100 for a full day. So there's really no obstacles to using those facilities down there. And those funds will help towards operating costs in the absence of anything else. So we have we're looking at developing our startup commercialisation program based on a very successful model that's been used in the Manawatu. It has been used for 10 years, and I think they've had something like 600 businesses go through and have raised over $5 million, or have through capital $5 million for some successful ones that have gone out. They started off with no funding whatsoever. They now have corporates, council, the district council falling over themselves to be involved and get merit from that. And they, for example, the council put up $120,000 in prize money for businesses that come through. So we're talking to these people on Friday to develop that program. Why invent the wheel? We have this concept already for a startup to commercialisation program, and to draw on ultimately with local investors' involvement. But they have a proven program up there, so we're going to talk to them on Friday about that.
Very good.
And it's going to cost, by the way, too. It will cost us to get that in place.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
And implement it. Yeah.
And also, obviously, with the ED team, I'm assuming you have a good relationship with them, and they're in regular contact with you?
No. I mean, I thought we had a good relationship with them. I've reached out to them and followed up, and with some communications and not had a response. I've asked for some individuals to contact us on 3 occasions. The appointments have been cancelled on 3 times. I've dropped everything to make an application, a report to and a news item for the business monthly that comes out, but sponsored by council. I got that in on time. It never got published. So I'm a bit underwhelmed, to be honest, with the support. But And, you know, I can understand this pressures that ED unit's under with the Gateway project and all the other things and being under-resourced and people turning over. Okay. So another case, I suppose, for an independent economic development manager reporting to the EDKB, not constrained by bureaucracy and the stresses of working in such an environment.
And would it be fair to say that from a Kita perspective, when you've been allocated action points with regards to the ED strategy, that you would have an expectation of some funding to come and being able to action those points?
Well, I understand from people that were involved in the working group that there was discussion about the leads and the partners who are volunteer organisations would get financial support to help them implement it. I mean, what we're left with is leads and partners, and whilst I'm very, very keen to support all this, it's a bit like being asked to go into a firefight with a knife. Really, we're a bunch of volunteers, and you need to give volunteers oxygen. Not necessarily money, but support at the very least. And when you're not responded to or acknowledged, that is pretty demoralising. And you can see why volunteers before me have burnt out and said enough. And these are very, very skilled, able, giving people. It is a tragedy, what I see here. And I was guarded about taking on this role as chair, from observing from afar. I've been here 25 years, to see the turnover that goes on here, the waste of resources, of my ratepayer money. And I saw an opportunity through the plan and the independent EDKB. Finally, the council's stepped up to the mark to be for business, and I was very happy to align it for better or for worse, align behind it, and hopefully we can get all the other factions around here all singing from the same song sheet, aligning behind the plan and the EDKB. So I'm still convinced we can do that. Convinced is probably not the word. I'm still very hopeful we can do that, but I'm fearful that some of the groups are going to not want to get in behind it. So, yeah.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you for your submission and appearing before us to deliver it in person. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Cheers. Thank you, councillors. Bye-bye.
Right, the last submitter, Chris Kroger.
Kia ora katoa, ko Chris Kroger, toko ingoa. So that's just a private opinion piece here. I would just like to commend the council on preparing this feedback document, which I think is great work. Would just recommend in the future, perhaps it's more honest to actually say it's not quick and easy to provide feedback. It's actually, it's more than 100 pages, even though well put together, concise, but it's a lot of work. And perhaps we could say to people, democracy is hard work on all sides. So, so I just go through, I just made some quick notes, along those lines, what I answered without having looked back at the actual feedback document. So asking around housing, whether the council should take a bigger role in housing, so particular sort of social housing, and if there are any opportunities to do this sort of, if the council has land available that is suitable for it, then by all means that might actually help people, but also potentially bring in some funding. On the point around whether the council, is doing enough to have a green appearance, I think it's great to see all the electric vehicles sort of parked around. Perhaps it's better to do more for green projects rather than being green only oneself, so to speak. And for instance, sort of work around, restoring the Queen Elizabeth Park wetlands. I think that would be a great project. But also to enable a green lifestyle. So, many people from here, as was just said, many people commute into Wellington or like myself to Lower Hutt, so there is no public transport to go to Lower Hutt. But even if you have the opportunity then to take the train, I think we have to have better access to the train station. So, and ideally that could be just cycling paths, something like that. I mean, a good area around the train station, I mean, where people park their bikes. I mean, in Europe, I mean, you have this ocean of bicycles in front of train stations, and something like this to normalize, I mean, using a bike. And I mean, perhaps that also the topic about growth for the capital region. I mean, clearly, I mean, it's on a steep incline for growth. Again, we need transport. That is really critical, I mean, to do. And I personally would like to see that, bikes, I mean, bike paths, I mean, are sort of part of this trajectory to build. The role of the council, I mean, unlike my predecessor, I mean, I'm a little wary about having a commercial entity, I mean, operating, perhaps because, I mean, once we have, as a rate-paying organization, I mean, once we have this KPI, this key performance indicator of growth and of making a profit, I wonder whether this actually helps us as a community. So, I mean, I also wonder, I mean, sort of with these increasing rates, I mean, everywhere, I mean, not just here, obviously. I mean, central government doesn't increase our salary portion we pay in taxes. But, I mean, all the councils have to constantly increase. I mean, I don't know, that's obviously not something you can solve here, but it's maybe where we can make a point. I mean, sort of what's going on? I mean, why is one stable and the other side increases? At the end of the day, it's taxes. Council-controlled organization. Perhaps I know simply not enough about it to really, I mean, sort of meaningfully answer it. I'm a bit wary about it because, I mean, once we have such an organization, I think it will take on its own life. And then we have people we can't make redundant. I mean, we have to take care of. So I mean, maybe what is the commercial project then? I mean, as long as it's not clear, I mean, if we say we take a stake in the airport, that is something tangible. I mean, it sounds, to the uninitiated, it sounds like a decent project. Whether it is or not, I mean, somebody else will have to do the due diligence. Ditto perhaps for housing. That might be also something, I mean, to easily take on some sort of commercial role, but within a social contract. Small comment around the footpath. I mean, sort of that was something about, I mean, money for fixing footpaths. I mean, and we just noticed that there are no footpaths where we live. And so perhaps, I mean, instead of fixing, maybe we build for everybody some safe footpaths. Question around reducing commercial rates. I mean, on the one hand, yes, but I mean, there were groups included like lifestyle blocks, rural. So I'm not quite clear why these groups would get lower rates compared to residential. I'm not sure. Maybe rural and lifestyle sounds to me residential, choosing to live elsewhere. Don't know. Last thing on rates, I mean, sort of the way it's communicated and how it's proposed. I mean, when these letters come out, I mean, sort of your house is being reevaluated for this amount. There isn't much really what one can say about it because, I mean, you have one number. Yes, it's much higher than it was 3 or 4 years ago. But what else can we say? I mean, since the rates are set in a relative way, and since we don't know about the relativities, how can we comment whether this is fair or not? So, I mean, so for us, I mean, for instance, the rate increase is much higher than the average, and that might be justified, but it's really hard to comment on without having this bigger view. That's really all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Councillor Compton.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, when you're talking about the fact that council rates go up each year, and you're saying you sort of don't understand why when tax doesn't increase, are you aware that sort of the government, central government's main two tax streams of income tax and GST, GST is effectively inflation-proofed anyway, because obviously the cost of goods go up, that 15% creeps up with it, and then with income tax, they've got effectively bracket creep, so as wages increase, you move into higher brackets, the brackets don't move, so the government progressively collects more. So at the minimum, local government, we set an amount and we have to then add inflation onto that. So that's sort of where that comes from. So there's a difference in terms of the revenue we collect isn't inflation proofed in the way that the government's is. Were you aware of that difference between the sort of two systems?
Well, probably not explicitly, and my comment actually wasn't meant as a criticism, but rather as a wondering, I mean, how can it be? I mean, as if central government is moving on the real costs, the real increases onto local government. So that was really what I tried to say.
They're definitely passing a lot of stuff down to us to do on their behalf as well, which is part and parcel, I guess, of the balancing act that they play as well, is where they can get other people to pay for it other than, like you said, putting up their taxes. So.
Councillor Coates.
Thanks for coming along and speaking to your submission tonight. You made a comment there just around the valuations of properties and that there's nothing that you can really do about that. The process that it involves offers a period of time that property owners can object to the valuation that's put on their property, and it's a 4-week period. We've actually, as a council, extend that beyond the standard 4-week requirement to 6 weeks. Is that something that you're aware of in terms of the opportunity to object, and have you ever looked to object to the increase in value?
Well, I mean, that's what I tried to say. I mean, sort of, I mean, all we are presented with is a number, sort of, and that might be 100,000, 200,000, or what, higher than it was. However, how it will reflect on our rates increase is actually not clear from this evaluation, because we don't know how other places increased. I mean, we would think our neighbors do the same thing, but I mean, so therefore we don't know what we object against. So, I mean, we can say, no, it's not worth that, but I don't know.
Right. Thank you very much, Chris, for taking the time and speaking to us so late in the evening. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Right. We're about to wind this up. Please, I've got some housework to do. I'm going to move that we adjourn this meeting to Tuesday, 18th May at 9:30. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Pravna seconds it. All those in favour say aye. Thank you for staying.